Hello and welcome. My name is Abhilash. I am joined today with Rakshit and Chetan, and we are going to talk about something called bamboo shoots. Bamboo shoots, if you've been following the series, is these discussions which have a germ of an idea. It is not fully fleshed out, but as we discuss it, we try to find out what we are going to achieve with this. And there's a good chance today we might actually be able to achieve some, point that we want to make. Today's topic is about feedback. Before I get carried away, Rakshit and Chetan say hi.
Hi.
Hey Abhilash.
All right then. So yes. So Chetan, do you want to introduce yourself? They have heard enough from Abhilash and Rakshit. We want to hear about Chetan now.
Hello. Hello. Everyone. My name is Chetan Nadigar. I currently work with Intel Corporation at Bangalore, uh, predominantly as a machine learning researcher. But at the moment, I'm putting on a don of hat of a teacher and a trainer. And yeah, looking forward to have a nice discussion.
All right. All right. And this. Okay, Rakshit, your turn now. Sorry, I forgot you're here.
I am Rakshit and I run Gentle Bamboo Solutions with Abhilash Purohit. So, yeah, is that what you wanted to hear from me, Abhilash?
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
We have heard enough from you already. Okay, so we've got a scientist in our midst now. Chetan, can you spend a minute or so without giving away your trade secrets, telling us what you do?
Okay. I am currently from last 12 years trying to teach computers to do things for me. Uh, Partly successful, not yet fully.
Okay, okay, all right. So yeah, the reason we are having this conversation is because I sent a mail some time ago to my email subscribers about feedback. And in that, I propose the idea that while feedback is a way for the trainer or the facilitator to understand what the learners felt about the session or what they learned from the session, I wanted to make a case in that email also that that is a way for the learners to become better at that learning as well. So if somebody was to summarize the learnings pretty well, it might act as a refresher for the other participants. And sometimes in articulating their favorite point from the hour or 2 or 3 hour long session, they the knowledge becomes that much more concrete in their mind, right? And I wrote that mail, I left it at that, and then Chetan called up and said, you know what, there's a little more to it and we should definitely talk about that. So here we are. So I give the floor to Chetan for a while now. And tell me, Chetan, what do you think? What do you think feedback is, and what do you think it is for, and how do we measure it? Anything that you want to talk about feedback in a training session? The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I think you rightly put that, saying that once I read that email, I was kind of sent into a thought mode of what really could be there. And this is where the idea actually originated. What really happened to me after reading that email. So, I mean, in essence, your email, I'm not sure what your intention was, but then in the essence, the intention that I took out of it was that it helps people think in a certain direction, think about things that they've never thought of, questions that came to their mind. So, and most of the times you've seen that when people start asking the right questions, the answers are apparent, right? And that's what people are seeking for, just that they do not know what the questions are, right? So, for example, when you do these workshop trainings that are slightly abstract in nature, they're not really abstract, but then for example, the business growth workshops that you do,
Mhm.
uh, those are slightly abstract. They are not prescriptive, right? Like if that was the way to succeed and that was the way to grow a business, everybody would have done that. The question, so, but are they wrong? No, they're not. So, the idea of those workshops is that you make sure that people come into that mode where they ask the questions which they never realized existed, and which they never realized are the questions I should be asking myself or somebody else, so that they seek the right answer. So if somebody comes into your workshop asking, how do I grow my business 20x? that's a question. Yes, everybody wants to grow 20x, but that's not the question to grow for 20x. So what is the question, right? You are not providing answers. I mean, if you knew how to grow 20x, you would not be doing the workshop. You'd be doing a workshop at probably a global level in some Mars planet. Okay, like for the whole universe. It's not for Earth. So,
Right.
so there are no answers, but you know how to get people to ask the right questions, either to themselves or to somebody else.
Right.
And depending on their capabilities and depending on the people they meet, they get the answers, right? So the key outcome of your workshops, in my view, of course, there are many other objectives, but one of the key outcomes is to make sure that people ask themselves the right questions about their own business. And you go lengths to make sure that they do that in terms of experiences, workshops, examples, and in terms of strategies, successful strategies, failure strategies, and whatnot, comparative studies, and things like that. So in that question, so this pertinent thing about feedback, which generally is laden with answers, that if somebody is able to answer correct things, if somebody able, then we say we met the objective, can be taken over and above that as well, that are they asking the right questions? And that's where this thought came up from the email, that the feedback could be in set of questions. And that's point number one. Point number two is why feedback is ideally for the trainer, right? Like, how did the session go well? The trainer needs to know for his improvement. But then what's in it for the learner to give that feedback, right? So they might do out of goodwill, but then at a scale, you won't get response. And that's the reason why we never respond to a survey, right? Like we never
Right.
click on say, how did I go? Even if we just throw a yes or no answer, right? Like even if there is a set of other options and there was an others option, I just click the other. So the question is, there isn't any motivation for the learner to give a feedback, because one of the things is what is there for the learner. So here, another idea about how do we get this feedback where it is explicit for learner and implicit for the trainer is, at the start of the workshop, collect the questions about the workshop. Again, no answers, only questions, right? Only questions. End of the workshop, again, questions, no answers, questions. And the trainer can compare the set of questions on their maturity level and see how one is much better than the other, and show them up front that, okay, see, the maturity level has probably increased, that you're asking the right set of questions, and hence explicitly they go back saying that, yeah, the training went well. And implicit feedback is, if they ask the right questions, you've done your job. It was amazing.
Oh, that makes sense. Rakshit, what do you think?
No, that's lovely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I do want to raise 2 points, if I may, very quickly. Number one, I want to clarify a point Chetan made, because I feel slightly differently about it. Chetan talked about, how um, there are no right answers, or that you may not have all the right answers yourself when you do any program. And while in principle I agree there, I also believe that when you offer any training program, when you deliver a program, you go in having an answer that works for you, right? So for example, when we do the business growth roadmap workshop, we are delivering content there and sharing ideas there that have worked for us, or we believe are working for us, right? Now, what we are also trying to do in sharing those examples and stories and those methods or strategies, if you want to call them that, is saying this worked for us in this specific use case in this time frame. Now, what can you pick from here that you can apply to your own business? Is it a direct comparison? Can you do it as is? Maybe not. Your business may be very different. The way you run your business may be very different. For example, if Abhilash and I were running separate companies, right? Abhilash is a lot more open and outgoing in social media. I am not. And so the way we build businesses would be very different, right? While our end objective might be the same, right? And so I think that's one key thing, is that when you go into any program, you go in with an idea of what you want to achieve, with an idea of what has worked for you, and you're sharing that knowledge. But at the same time, you like Chetan said, leave the floor open for your participants to take what they can from it and really reflect upon it, which brings us to the second point of asking questions. I think that's a lovely way of gauging whether there has been any significant improvement, right? the kind of questions you're asking at the beginning of the workshop to the kind of questions you're asking at the end of the workshop, I think that shows a sense of maturity. My only caveat there is sometimes the kind of questions you want to ask may not change, or you ask may not change in the duration of the workshop itself. And so you may want to have a method where you track their improvement over time, right? So a 3-hour workshop is only the beginning where you can orient your participants towards a certain set of skills. You can explain to them, or they can learn why they are important and how to go about applying those skills. But really testing that out, playing with it, reflecting upon it, and then sort of reimagining it for themselves, right? Or reinventing it, or modifying it, innovating upon it for themselves is something you want them to do over the next few months, which is why even in the business growth roadmap workshop, we very specific that, this is going to be a long duration workshop and not a one-off workshop. We have to have coaching afterwards. And so I think that is crucial. The follow-up you do after a program is crucial to ensure that the feedback you get, right, is not just a reflection of how well the program has gone, but also a measurable, but you have a way to measure the impact of what your learner has learned or your participant has learned. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? You want learning to be personalized. We talk about that in our GPS framework as well. We want learning to be personalized. And the way to make learning personalized would be for participants to reflect upon their learnings and then figure out what they're going to pick and how they're going to apply it, in a sense. Does that work for you as well, Abhilash? And Chetan?
Yeah.
Absolutely makes sense. What you say absolutely makes sense in terms of the time required for people to introspect, internalize, and be able to come to the ask right question. It may not just be end of the hour of the workshop. Yes. And I think it's a point that we can really think about to see what could be those tangible methods of engaging with the learner even for a long time, quote unquote, long time after the workshop, and still seek that feedback that has he or she learned things or understood things. I would not call it learned and understood, but has it risen their curiosity, and are they even raised their maturity level about that business aspect? And also another important point that you brought about is the quantitative evaluation. I think one of the things or an exciting thing about quantitative, though I'm not a personal fan of it, but then when you do things at scale, you need quantitative, and qualitative will not work majority of the time. I think that's also again an open point that you can think of what's the right way of measuring quantitatively. If I mean people do it in terms of how many right answers they gave, how many people ticked excellent, I learned, good experience. All that is fine, but is it effective? I'm not so sure. Yeah, you do get a pulse of it, but then what's the next step on that? Is the end of that workshop? No, it's something more that we can really think of. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking on top of my head what could be the ideas of how do we do it quantitatively, especially the curiosity part of it.
There's this thing we used to do, Rashid, if you remember. We had these cards we used to give. What after the session was done, after the feedback was taken, and everybody has rated you either excellent or very good and all, a year ago we would have just walked away, right? And head held high, I made a difference in these people's lives and all of that. Somewhere along that line, we started thinking, okay, this is one of those things where you go watch a movie in the cinema with your friends, and you like it because you were in a certain company. You come back, and as you're driving back home, you start finding out 20 problems with that movie. There was this plot hole, it just doesn't explain how this happened and all of that. And what we decided was that happens to us when we attend training sessions ourselves. That might be happening to people who attend our sessions as well. So with that in mind, one of the things that we decided was to first prepare exactly what we are going to say, and put them into the form of these playing card sized cards, sometimes 8 cards, sometimes 10 cards, which kind of covers all the training that we have provided, all the ideas and concepts we've discussed, and then give it to them physically. Every participant gets a deck of cards. And I'll be honest, it used to be expensive. The printing cost and the preparation, the time that goes into designing that, all that was different. But what happened was there was this bunch of people we met about a year after the training was done, right? And incidentally, I meet them in the cafeteria of the company that I had been for another training session. They recognize me, say hi, come, takes out his wallet, brings out that set of cards, 2 or 3 that he had kept for himself, and said, Abhilash, this is something I carry around everywhere. Every time a topic like this comes up, I'm happy to pull this card out and talk about it. In my mind, that was a better feedback than any quantitative rating I had got in any training session so far. The fact that the learning stuck and it created enough impact that the person remembered both the learning as well as he was propagating that learning further to his friends and family. I think that was one way. And when he told me that, I felt really happy that, okay, this is the kind of feedback I'm looking for, which is a long-term feedback. Now you can't plan for it, but if it happens, it's super cool.
Coming back to that point, I mean, I love that story, Abhilash, but coming back to that point that Chetan was trying to make about quantitative feedback, I think that's a very interesting line of discussion, and I want to pursue that a little bit, right? Which is one thought I have, and maybe we can discuss how we could scale something like this, is to look at a learner and ask them either before the program or maybe somewhere during or post the program, what specific objective they have for attending a program, right? That may be in terms of wanting to change a particular behavior, or like you say, growing a business 10x, right? And a good way to check might be to ask them to rate themselves on whether they've achieved that goal in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months down the line, right? Using some of the concepts that you've discussed and the subsequent reflection that the participant has had and the experiences that they've had post your workshop, right? Now, this is a slightly long-term view. And also, but what it does is that you allow for learners to set their own objectives for their program. And if those objectives are within the purview of what you've covered in that training program, then it'll be really interesting to measure if they've been able to hit that objective in a subsequent period of time. And if yes, then you know quantitatively whether your training has had the impact you desired or not. Now, how do we implement that at scale is a
Did you
interesting
just
question.
propose to short-sighted learning industry that we should actually think long-term? Is this where we're going with this now?
No, I mean, there are, of course, multiple challenges with crafting learning journeys, time, budget, so on and so forth. But if we were to take an ideal scenario and then figure out how to bend life to fit into this, we'll do that later. But do you think that's one approach maybe? And if yes, how do we scale that approach, or what are the pitfalls of that approach?
Yeah, I mean, on the point that you said that the objectives of people who come into the session, with what objectives they come in. I mean, in my experience, the objectives of the workshop and the objectives of people who come in rarely match.
Yeah.
Okay, rarely match. So, and even more rare is they know why they have come there. Really. So if they can figure out why I had come here after end of workshop, I would call it as a success. Okay, so if they figure out that next time a session Abhilash is doing, and I want to attend it once again, because now I know why I want to attend that. If they can get that, if that's a success. So yeah, but Abhilash, to your point about qualitative feedback, yeah, it felt good when that guy told you about the cards and all. But then, in my view, that's good. But then again, I say quantitative because at scale nothing can be qualitative. So right? So when you do 10 workshops per week, okay, qualitative is too strenuous and too mentally strenuous to examine and evaluate and stuff like that. So there has to be a quantitative. So this is where I'm putting this hat of a ML researcher now. Okay, so initially
ML
when
is
I
machine
said,
learning.
okay, machine learning. So when you, so the question is, there are set of these questions. So I'm just trying to, on my top of my head, figure out that connect 2 points. One is quantitative feedback. One is feedback after some time after the workshop and not immediately, right? Or start from the end of the workshop to some time. Keep that buffer time open for people to ask questions. Known fact, people, they immediately walk out of the meeting of the room, motivation dips by 50% to do anything about the workshop. Okay, and next day they forget. So we know that. The question is, again, there has to be something incentive for the learner to ask questions. Okay, it is to incentivize, and then slowly, hopefully, the interest comes also in. First incentive, then is the interest. Okay, so incentive could be assuming they like the workshop, the experience of it. Next time, if they have to come in, there has to be some set of questions to a certain maturity level about that last workshop, right? That is the incentive. So you want to come in for the next one. Yeah, I mean, it's not you're denying entry to anybody, but then you come with a badge saying that you have asked some certain questions. Now, if this has to be applied at scale now, I mean, you give that buffer time that, okay, next workshop, you announce that this is a new workshop at this point of time, and version 2 of this. If you have to come in, you have to come in with the right set of questions. So how do we measure the questions? Again, in your database, you have a set of, let us say, 50 questions. You know, typically people should ask after their maturity level goes high, because you know what are those questions. Now, when people submit these questions, you try to compare the sense of it. Of course, the language is different, the wordings are different. And that's where my machine learning researcher had come, that you can still compare two questions on the essence of it, not really the wordings of it. There are techniques to do that. So if you can do that, you get to know that if a person is able to ask 80% of what the maturity is expected, right? And that is and if they pass a certain, you can have a very low bar, let's say 40%. If you are able to ask a more than 40% maturity questions, you are in. If not, you need to go to version 1. Right? And those set of questions, you are not exposing that something. You can't just ask any question and then hope to get in. So it's like passing an exam by asking questions rather than answering the questions.
Right. No, this is actually quite brilliant. Tell me this, Chetan. Then one second. The technical feasibility of this does not look very challenging to you. I can see that in your eyes. It looks like a trivial problem to you. It is well beyond my understanding at the point.
It isn't trivial,
So,
but then it can be worked out. I mean, you can have techniques. I mean, you can get a fairly good enough system to match questions.
okay. So tell me this, then I want a combined answer from you, Rakshit and Chetan, no, because this has piqued my interest enough that there can be something that we can do about it as a company and essentially help out big corporates to do this. This is something that we have been thinking all along. And now we have a machine language scientist who can at least show us the direction, help us ask the right questions. So the question I'm asking you, and hope this is a highly mature question now, is that is there a way in which you create a program design, Rakshit, and you do this a lot of times. You get a program title and some objectives and outcomes and such, and go ahead and design a full program for it. Now, Chetan, are you suggesting that along with that, Rakshit's job also becomes to feed in a bunch of high quality questions about the program, and that is then used for comparison? Or do the questions emerge organically as we do the sessions as well? How do we go about this collection of questions, so to speak?
I mean, I would say, since you guys are the experts of what questions they should be able to answer, you guys should prepare. I mean, if you get an excellent question that you have not thought about doing program, add it. Okay, no question. See, it's a live database, but you start with some. And when there are many brilliant minds in the learning class, and then somebody asks an amazing question about how it should go, and that never struck you, add that to the database and thank that guy. Probably reward that guy as well. So yeah, so that's a good way of approaching this. And then the second point about, you said the corporates who arrange these workshops for their employees, right,
Mhm.
need to know, have they passed, have they understood, right? And this could be one way. So, I mean, you have level 1, level 2 courses. Have you passed level 1? So, and in these cases, you can have many ways of assessing level 1, right? Like you give a case study, and if they work out a case study well of team building or machine learning, there, because there are no straight answers. Everybody has a different point of view. But you take the essence out of it and see whether they have got that essence out, right? So that's one way of doing it. I'm not saying. So that's one way. Another way is this. So this is more, you don't need to analyze anything. I mean, the software system does that for you, of course, with little bit of manual intervention if required. But then essentially at scale, a software system does its evaluation, and much more towards the learning rather than being able to pick up exactly what is being said in the workshop.
Follow-up question then, Chetan, and I'm going to take just a minute to explain where I'm coming to with this. Now, what you've defined, right, is essentially a way for us to objectively measure what a participant has gone through, correct? Their from a training program and what they've taken away from a program. Now, typically for evaluation of training programs, there are quite robust models that already exist, which have stood the test of time. There is one
Okay.
very famous model called as the Kirkpatrick model, and I'll just take 30 seconds to explain what that is. It looks at 4 levels of learning. Step 1, it measures the reaction of participants who've attended a program. Step 2, it looks at what they've learned, and now typically you gauge that by means of a quiz or an assessment, sometimes interviews with the participants. Step 3, you look at behavior change, right? And this usually kicks in about 3 months into the program. If there is sustained work that has been done between the close of the program and the 3 months, you look at, has there been a change in behavior, right? You attended a program on time management, for example. Are you managing your time better now? How has that changed how has your behavior changed? Are you, planning better? Are you, using your time better? So on and so forth. There are specific measures identified, and then you're looking for whether that behavior has changed. You're doing that again by means of peer-to-peer interviews, sometimes an interview with a manager, case studies and scenarios, all of that, right, in a real-time environment. And fourth is organizational change, meaning how has this behavior impacted the organization, right? Now, typically, this is an year-round process. Now, where most L&D ends is at level 2. Well, most L&D ends at level 1, and then some goes up all the way up to level 2. Level 3 and 4 are pretty much always ignored, right? Because it is expensive, right? And it takes a lot of effort to do that. My question is, if we know these 4 levels, right? And if we know how to measure these 4 levels for each of these, for any program you do, whether it is through a set of questions that you want to ask, if you want the participants to ask, whether it is through a set of behaviors you want participants to observe, is there a way to build a system that actually measures and tracks all of this and gives them a detailed report by the end? And if yes, without having to, tie up with any kind of HRMS, because that lends its own set of problems. But independently, if I wanted to just take one training program and let participants go through these 4 levels, is there a way to kind of do that within the method you're proposing?
Yeah, on top of my head, what I'm thinking is it's a little bit of case to case basis in terms of what kind of
Exactly.
training, right? Like when you say time management, yeah, you can go through the 4 levels. You can get the reaction, you can get a quiz. Then third one is you talked about behavioral changes, as in like, okay, you just track his work time, how anybody tracks amount of time anybody does on any task. That's a typical organization's this thing. You get that objective. And the fourth one is, has it impacted? Yes, I mean, in terms of, you can have that relation order over and over again. So probably in some way. But let's say some little more abstract topics of, let us say,
Leadership, let's say.
leadership. Yes, that's a very, very good point. Leadership. Okay. 1 and 2, okay, you can do as I said. Third, has there been a behavior leadership change? probably you can take feedback from subordinates. I'm not called subordinates, leaders whom the guy is representing, right? Like, okay, you can get a feedback from there and see if there has been a change 3 months down the line. Okay. Has it impacted this thing? Again, all these are subjective. I wouldn't call it as
Correct.
objective. You can make it limited objective by questionnaire to the people whom he represents and all those things. What I'm talking about is they are not circling back to you, right? Like you, because you're a third party vendor, third party agency, your connect isn't there. So then it becomes an internal matter and you just prescribe a process and then leave it. You're not
Correct.
running this show for the collection of level 3 and level 4 data.
Correct.
And hence no business for you there.
Correct.
So what I'm talking is this: if we map into these 4 levels, let's say if that's a proven model and everybody accepts that, and let's see how we can map it to this model. The idea is that somehow at least you guys should be in the 3rd level, at least. Right. That whether a behavioral change, I can let you know. You have to. So the corporate has to come through you to see whether that person is having a behavioral change or not, and that generates business for you again.
Correct.
And since you guys are the experts, you might be the best way to recommend. It's not only purely about business because you guys know more about it. So you might be the best persons to give you that input to the corporate as well. So there's value there as well. So in that respect, again, the question, the person who has gone through this training has to interact with your system and processes. Again, there has to be an incentive for him or her.
Correct.
So as I told that, so if he has to pass and go to the next level, he has to interact with your system and pass your examination. And that examination is not about answering questions. Answering is about questions again. So I'm just telling a model.
Correct.
So, and in some cases, it could be pure answers, right? For example, time management, there's no great abstractness about it, right? I mean, it boils down to a fixed set of process that you say, this is how you should do it and this is how you should do it, and it works. And there are straightforward answers. He doesn't need to ask any abstract questions or anything like that. So in that respect, so there could be an answer way of interacting with your system. So you guys could be in that 3rd level as well, and said, I'm going to offer you the 3rd level of feedback as well, and you still maintain that business connect.
No, absolutely. One thought that struck me as you were speaking was, how after a program to track level 3, if I were to have a simulation that the participant goes through either individually or with a team, that is still a kind of, objective way for me to assess how they are behaving in that simulation, right? Because I think the big challenge here is these are fairly subjective methods which have to now be measured in an objective fashion, and the only way I can think of right now is for them to go through some kind of a simulation where they are actually exhibiting or not exhibiting the behaviors you want them to exhibit. Again, it's not foolproof, but is that one way to think about it?
That's actually a very good point. If it's like having a workshop on, let's say, I mean, it's like a meta workshop. So you've made a workshop on what, and you taught them something, and you do a workshop and to see if they have learned it. That might actually be a good idea, right? That might really, I mean, you might have that's like another level, another type of workshop that you conduct is to assess. And you don't make it explicitly that I'm assessing somebody. Of course, then it's a different matter. Probably, yeah, probably also. But then that's a pretty good point that we can actually think of. So how do we make a workshop that can help you assess? Okay, but then again,
Workshopception.
Huh?
Workshopception. That's the word I'm coining now. It's a workshop inside a workshop, inside another workshop. And we should definitely talk about that as well in more detail.
Yes. I think it. I mean, it could as simple as be like you're not done a workshop, you're just doing a workshop pre-workshop to let the people know that where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be pre as well, but so it's a good idea.
I mean, as much as I like being paid thrice for the same workshop from the corporate, we do come across a few challenges here, which is a little budgetary in nature.
One point before you start, it can be 3 workshops, or it could be part of that workshop. So you extend that. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is, since you guys are so big on gamification, right? And games are the way to assess.
Yeah.
So, and that core fits into your philosophy that learning is all about games, right? Like it's play gives you the most learning. You guys' principle fits in here very well. And through games, you can assess, teach, games assessment.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Which is basically kind of where I was going with my point, which is
Got it.
that while there might be budgetary constraints because of which we might not get a pre-workshop, a workshop, and a post-workshop for assessments, the kind of programs that we are already doing, we have done in the past, and we hope to do in the future, are programs which contain all of this already in the session.
Oh, okay.
That
Okay.
there is a little bit of discussion upfront, then you play a game, and then you debrief it. So these are almost those three steps. First, ask a bunch of
Got it.
good questions and do that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's amazing then. I think that's all. If it's already in there, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it
But you
needs
know
to be
what? We
refined.
should
But yeah.
definitely still have another conversation some point when you all have time to dig a little deeper into how we would approach that.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think in this episode, however, unless there is any other big point you wanted to make and you forgot to, or it's just coming to you, we have run the course. We are at 35 minute mark now. And we can come back and catch up once more.
Yeah.
I think we should come back. I think I also got to end now. I got to go and earn my bread. So yeah.
No, keep earning your bread. Keep coming back for some butter over here. All right. So quickly to summarize, we started by talking about what? We started by talking about an obscure email that I had written about how feedback is relevant not only to the trainer, but also to the learner. We took it from that point and went pretty deep actually into the kind of impact you can have, qualitative, quantitative. We brought in machine learning. And one of the big ideas, at least for me, as far as I'm concerned, and this is feedback for you, Chetan, is that from this session about feedback, I get a pretty interesting way of assessing learning. And that is taking the participants or learners from the questions they had when they began towards questions they have in at the end of the session, and see if the questions itself have become a little more matured compared to the previous ones. And if that happens, that is a good enough feedback for both the learner, the trainer, and in fact a third person, which is the corporate, that some learning was to be had. Does that summarize this whole thing for you?
Absolutely. And also one of the things is that answering requires intelligence, and there's a lot of difficulty in doing that. Questioning does not so much require so intelligence. It's just matter of question pops out of curiosity and interest. So so that way people who want to give feedback, if you ask questions, they're forced to think, and which is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. So that's one of the reasons also why people don't answer, because there's a judgment about answers. Of course, there's a lot of judgment, more judgment about questions when people ask, but then you don't need intelligence. You can be discreet about asking questions, but answering is it requires intelligence and articulation and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Closing words, Rakshit.
Thank you so much, Chetan. This has been lovely.
Yeah, you should come more
It was
frequently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
then. That is it. Thank you, dear viewer, for tuning in to this episode of Bamboo Shoots. We do this every week now, and we hope to convey in between all the fun conversation that we are having with, friends, some really deep insights about how you can become better at being the trainer that you already are. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.